Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Chapter 5. Just going to review some of the highlights and some of the most important information that you really need to know in order to do well. So Chapter 5 is about researching, and what basically you need to know in this chapter is you need to understand the difference between academic and workplace research because they're a little bit different. You need to understand the research process. You need to know how to choose appropriate research methods, how to conduct secondary research, and how to conduct primary research. Um, the difference between academic and workplace research, and it's really pretty simple. Academic research, your goal is to help answer a scholarly question, which is often abstract and applied. It usually requires secondary research, extensive secondary research. So an example of an academic question might be, how did the War of the Roses impact modern England's economic status? Okay, so something like that might be an academic question. Workplace research is very different because you're usually looking for an answer to a practical question that is somehow going to improve a situation for your organization. It might make things be more cost effective. It might help you select a better system of some sort. So it's usually to problem solve. And it usually requires primary research where you actually have to go out into the field and figure out the answers for yourself. It's not as much library-based kind of work. So there's 12 tasks to consider when you're working on a research project. The first is to figure out who your audience is, and second, the purpose of the research. What is it that you want to find out? What is it that you want to know? Why do you need to know it? What's going to be done with the information that you find? Then you're going to analyze your subject and look at the different components of it. Visualize your deliverable. Think about how you're going to present this information. Should it be in a memo? Is it going to be in a report? Is it a web page? Is it just simply some notes that you've written down on a piece of paper? And then you need to figure out a schedule and a budget. When I'm doing a schedule, I always work backwards. So I start with the date that the item is due, and then I work on my steps backwards. So that's something to consider when you're setting up a project. Determine what kind of information you will need to be in the deliverable, what information you already have, and what information you're going to need to find out. And then what you want to do is start creating some questions. What questions do you need to answer in order to create or to find the answer to your research question? So you're going to conduct secondary research. Usually that's what we do whenever we have a question, a research question, is we start with Google. Google it, see what you can find out. And from Google, that will help you kind of identify those areas of primary research that you need to look into. And then you'll evaluate your information, determine gather all the information that you need, and then determine where else you need to find more information, and then you'll do more research. So types of questions will determine what kind of research method you will follow. So what is the theory behind the process or the technique? What is the history? What techniques are being used now to solve this problem? How is a current situation expected to change? So these are some basic beginning questions that will help set your research in motion. Figure out what's the history of this? Is this something that occurs once a year? Is it a problem that happens every 6 months that somehow needs to be resolved? And when you figure out the history of the issue, then you'll know better how to attack it. What products are available. So for example, if you're looking at an HVAC system, what types of HVAC systems are available? Maybe you want to create a chart and you want to look at the different kinds of systems and do a cost analysis for a client who is trying to determine what's the best system to purchase. Um, Again, you could use a chart for that to find out the strengths and the weaknesses of the different kinds of products that are available. And then look at what experts say. There are all kinds of online blogs and forums that can give you information from experts. And you can also, this is one place where library research might even come into play depending on your topic. Uh, so figure out what those people who have experience with the product or the service are saying about it. Uh, Again, other questions to ask: what are the facts about how you do your jobs at this company? Is there a particular way that certain reports are due at a particular time? Therefore, there's a tight schedule that can't be deviated from. What can you learn about what caused the problem? So are there people who have historical knowledge in the organization that can kind of give you a background of what has happened and how this problem has occurred? What do people in the company think of? What do your coworkers think about this issue? How do they imagine that it can be solved or improved? And how well would the product or service work in your organization? So for example, you might find the best HVAC system that meets your customers' needs, but it may take an extraordinary amount of time in order to actually get that HVAC system to the customer. So in which case the customer may, want their AC working within 2 weeks rather than 2 months. So it's those kinds of just practical questions that you want to consider when you are beginning your research process. When you're researching, be persistent. Don't take the first answer as the answer. Make sure that you take time to figure out what's going on and what other perspectives are. Keep good records. Pay attention to the information that you get and where that information comes from. It's quite likely that a company will tell you that they're the best company in the world for a particular item. So you need to be able to check multiple resources to do that. And that's actually called triangulating your data or your research methods. What you want to do is, let's just say I'm going to stick with HVAC because that's an easy example. HVAC system X is really great. Well, the company's website says it's great for X, Y, and Z. What do other places say? What do other like Consumer Reports have to say? Or what do experts who have installed these systems in the past have to say about ease of installation or maintenance or these kinds of things? So you want to look at more than one place, and you want to get at least 3 different sources. That's why it's called a triangulate, a triangle, 3 points, that help that give you feedback and give you information when you're trying to research. Lots of traditional tools to use. There's online catalogs, reference works, periodical indexes, newspaper indexes, abstract services, government information. These are all traditional research formats, and you can use them through the library. You can certainly Google, but these are all available to you in online ways. Let's get this next slide to go. Woohoo! Get my there we go. There we go. Look for information that is accurate. And again, when you're triangulating your information, that's one way to verify its accuracy and make sure it's unbiased. Again, if you're only looking at what a company has to say about its product, you're probably not going to get an unbiased perspective. comprehensive. You want to always cover all of your bases. You don't want to leave questions unasked or holes in your data or information. That it's appropriately technical depending on the research project. Current is especially important in technical communication because so much information changes so quickly that currency is huge. You really don't want to look at, I'll go back to the HVAC example, an HVAC system that was built 20 years ago, unless you want to compare it to something that is today, because laws have changed, installations have changed, home building regulations have changed. So many factors have changed that if you're looking at something that is not current, it may not be relevant and it may not be useful or helpful to what you're doing. And of course, you want it to be clear. You want it to make sense and be logical. When you're evaluating print and online sources, you want to look at who the author is. Is it somebody that is well known in the field? Is it some kind of expert? You want to look at the publisher. Again, are these publishers that are well known? You want to look at the knowledge, the depth and breadth of the literature. Is there a lot of information there? Can you verify the information? And again, back to that timeliness, how recent, how current is the information that you're getting? There are 8 different categories of primary research just to kind of be aware of. And primary research, again, is a lot of the kind of research that you will do. The difference between secondary and primary, secondary is something that somebody else has already done, and you're referring to other people's research. Primary is the research that you actually do yourself. It's the data that you gather yourself. So you can do that by looking at social media data, looking at blogs, reading what people have to say. You can look at observations and demonstrations. Frequently when companies are looking for new systems, new software, they'll invite different software companies to come in and provide demos of how their product works. Do inspections if that's appropriate. Experiments, try things out. Field research, go out and observe how something is. Interviews are always great. You can email people, you can pick up the phone and call people, you can make appointments to meet with people face to face. Inquiries, again, that can be in form of email or a phone call. And questionnaires are a great way if you want to gather data from many people, perhaps your company or your coworkers. A questionnaire that's well written can get you a lot of information really quick. And that's the end. If you have any questions, simply post them in the I have a question forum, and I'll be happy to answer them. Have a good evening.